Mills County Commissioners Court for Monday, March 14th is now in session. We have present from the court, the county judge, Commissioner Wright, Parton, and Williams. That constitutes a quorum. Commissioner Guerin is with us via Zoom. Under the current rules, he can participate, but doesn't count for a quorum and can't vote. So we are properly convened. We also have present the county attorney, the county treasurer, and the county clerk. So if you would join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Williams, would you lead us in prayer?
Pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, bless this day that you have granted us. Father, be with us as we do the business of Mills County. Father, guide us and direct us in all our actions. Father, bless our land with some rain. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. As we get started, let me remind everyone to please mute your cell phones. If you need to take a call, go out into the hallway. If you're speaking, would like for you to please use the microphone up here on the stand. We've had comments from the public that they, although we can hear fine in the courtroom, people watching this separately or later on YouTube don't get the audio if you don't use the mic. We have 3 people signed up to address the court. You have 2 options. You can speak to us up front or when an item is reached on the agenda. So I'm going to go through this real quickly and see who wants to talk now versus later. Dwayne Rawson, you've signed up to speak. Do you want to go now or with some topic?
What I want to speak on isn't on the agenda.
Well, then we'll go first before we'll let you go first. Benny Davis, you signed up to speak about EMS dispatching. Do you want to go first or wait till we get to EMS dispatching on the agenda? Benny Owen. Okay, that's fine. That's your choice. I just want to check. I have to ask. And Mr. Campbell, Sam Campbell. Okay, well, with that, Mr. Rawson, if you would come up to the podium and use the microphone. The clerk is the timekeeper on it.
I came up here a couple of months ago and addressed you about the same thing about when I was campaigning, people I spoke to, they're still asking what happened to the over $900,000 that Mills County was awarded for the virus, the grant for the virus that was spent. And still no reply. So now I'm asking the commissioners, Commissioner Guerin there, to please place it on the agenda for March 28th, explain to us, the residents of Mills County, why we cannot get a reporting on what our funding is being spent for. To besides $900,000 that was given, the grant for the $900,000 that was given to Mills County, the additional money that is in there, who is authorized to sign off on these spendings? Why are we not allowed to get it from them? We're asking that as on March 28th, you cannot sit up there while it's on and explain to us, what do we need to do to get it posted in the Gateway Eagle, not on the website, as our First Amendment right is freedom of the press. That was before computers and anything came out. That's why people would like to have it posted in the Gateway Eagle. As I said before, there are still people that does not have computers by their choice. I cannot hear what you're saying, Mr. Barry. So we're asking as Mills County residents, please let us know what's going on with our money that we've given from the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Going to take some liberties with the order of the agenda, and we will put the routine monthly reports aside for the moment. We moved to item number 4, which is consider an act on an audit report from Eckert.
Judge, you're going to have to speak up. They can't hear you in the audience.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. We're going to move to item 4 on the agenda, which is consider an act on an audit report from Eckert and Company for the county's fiscal year ended September 30, 2021. We have our audit partner, Wayne Barr, participating via Zoom. He's up on the screen. And the report itself was distributed to the commissioners. The treasurer has a copy. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Barr.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning. You should have in front of you the audit packet as it relates to the audit as of September 30 of 21. So if you would turn over in to the audit packet, there's a letterhead page right past the table of contents, about 2 or 3 pages in. This is the independent auditor's report. And in a nutshell, what this report says is the financial statements are the responsibility of the management or the county. The auditor's responsibility is to express an opinion. And the opinion is these financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. And so this is a good, clean audit opinion for the audit of this fiscal year. So over on page 3, there is a discussion there. Pages 3 through 7 is called Management's Discussion and Analysis. So this is just summary information of everything else that is in the audit. So I'm going to skip that. That's just gives you summary information as it relates to financial statements and notes that are in the audit. Where I really want to begin is over on page 8 of the audit. This is what we call a statement of net position of the county as of September 30. And what this represents is all of the funds of the county incorporated into one financial statement. So basically, this is what we would consider a balance sheet. It incorporates your capital assets, it incorporates your long-term debt, etc. And then on the next page is what we call then a statement of activities, which incorporates all of the revenues and expenses of the county, again, for all those funds as of September 30 of 21. The most important, probably a couple of statements, begins on page 11. This financial statement is the balance sheet for the governmental funds of the county as of September 30. So the first column there represents your general fund. So I will call your attention to the two figures in that first column towards the bottom, that 2.766 million. That is your general operating fund balance as of September 30. And that is approximately $855,000 increase over the previous year. Second column is your road and bridge fund. Your third column is your law enforcement fund. And if you'll go to the next page, you have your debt service fund, your the American Rescue Plan Fund, and all the other funds, and then you have a total on the far right. So this incorporates, again, you've got certain funds that are broken out separately, general fund, road and bridge, law enforcement, et cetera. And then everything else is combined into the other fund column. And then over on page 14 is the revenues and expenditures, again, of those same funds. So again, I'll call your attention to the first column, which is your general operating fund. Towards the very bottom, you began the year at $1.911 million in fund balance, and you ended the year with $2.766 million in your general operating fund balance. And again, road and bridge, same ones, the road and bridge, law enforcement, debt service, the ARPA funds, and then the total to the far right on page 15. Pages 17 and 18 are a little financial statement as it relates to the fiduciary funds, which is your county district clerk, tax assessor, JP, and the sheriff fund. And then, of course, on page 18 it's a little bit different format than what previous years because of our auditing standards, but you have additions, deductions, et cetera, of those custodial fiduciary funds. All right, over on page 19, we begin standard footnote information. In pages 19 through about 23 is just standard information. Nothing really changes from the previous year, but it's standard information we are required to disclose. So let's go over to page 24. So in the middle of the page, you see a little table there that represents interfund transfers during the fiscal year. So there it represents transfers from the general fund to the different, road and bridge, law enforcement, et cetera. And so that total was that 1.3 million for the year. And then directly below that is your capital asset schedule. And always remember, this capital asset schedule represents historical cost. It does not represent market values. All right, on page 25, the middle of the page, you have a little statement about unearned revenue. So this is the ARPA grant funds. This is funds that came in that was not expended as of September 30. Now, I had conversations with Judge Smith and Ms. Campbell as it relates to these ARPA funds. If during an individual fiscal year, you expend over $750,000 of federal revenue, which ARPA is deemed federal revenue, then you're subject to the single audit. So I suggested to them, you might consider trying to spread that out whereby you're not incorporating that full 750 in one fiscal year. Otherwise, you will be subject to a single audit in the coming future years.
Just to clarify, Mr. Barr, the amount at 9/30/21 on the audit report is 473,000 and change.
Yes, sir. What that represents is that is money that came in but was not expended as of September 30. So that's why it's setting up as unearned revenue. Then directly, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just thanking you for the explanation.
All right, so right below that is your capital lease schedule, and this is a capital lease that was paid off during the fiscal year, and this lease came in 2018-19, so it's fully paid off. And then directly below that is your debt schedule as it relates to the loan on the senior center building, and this loan was fully paid off as well. So The only debt, if you'll go to the next page, the only debt the county had as of September 30 was this bond. And if you'll look there, you owed $6.3 million in bonds. And to me, a most useful schedule is on the next page, which represents the total principal and interest that will be paid out over time on the bond through 2040. So principal 6.3, your interest is nearly 2.9, so you'll be paying over time $9.2 million on that bond. All right, beginning on page 27, the middle of the page is required pension liability plan information that we are required to disclose. This information is provided to us directly from TCDRS, and we are required to incorporate that into your audit. If you'll flip on over to page 31, $641,000 figure at the bottom right represents this net pension liability that's sitting out there that is not required to be reported as a figure on the financial statements, but is for disclosure purposes only. Okay, on page 34 is tax abatement information on the tax abatements that you currently had in place as of September 30. And directly below that is your disclosure as it relates to your emergency medical services. And I believe that pays off, or the current contract pays off in 2023. Okay, page 36. This schedule here is a budget comparison schedule for your general operating fund. So there's nothing to really we have to report here other than this is a required schedule for the audit. I call your attention to the first column. Based on original budgeted information, you all had planned on $1.9 million in fund balance. And based on final amended budget information, a little over $2 million, and you came in at 2.7. So you were $744,000, $45,000 to the good based on your actual amounts compared to your final budgeted amounts. And then on the next page is, again, a budget comparison schedule for road and bridge. Then the next page is law enforcement. And then the next page is your interest and sinking fund, your debt service fund. So these budget comparison schedules are required to be put in these audits. So it's for your information. If there was something significant in there as a, let's say you overexpended a function by a material amount, then it potentially could lead to a finding in the audit. But I'm happy to report this was not the case this year at all. All right, beginning on page 40 through 44 is just more pension disclosure information. We're not going to spend any time there. 45 is your certificates of deposit schedule as of the end of the fiscal year. And then 46 is another audit report. This is a report on internal control over financial reporting. So again, going back to budget as an example, if there was something that, let's say there was a material finding, we would have to report something here in this letter and also put a schedule in the audit. But again, I'm happy to report we did not have anything that we needed to disclose as it relates to financial reporting, internal control. All right, and then also that basically is the audit report. There is a one-page letter that I issued to the Commissioner Court. Should be a standalone letter. And this is what we call a management letter comment. So there's two things I wanted to bring to the Commissioner's attention. Excuse me. As it relates to bank, pardon me, bank reconciliations. We were, part of our procedures is that we look at bank reconciliations to make sure that they're being performed, done timely, done accurately. And in the tax assessor's office, there were bank reconciliations that were being prepared and completed. Sometimes they were not completed timely and they contain some errors. So it's just important for bank reconciliations, not only for the tax office, but for all offices, that these be done timely and accurately so that we can ensure that accurate information is being reported to the commissioners. And then below that was a comment in regards to credit card receipts. Now, this was very immaterial, but this is an important part of internal control. So as charges occur on the credit cards, receipts should always be returned and sent into the treasurer's office so that receipts can be matched up to the credit card statement. There was a few receipts that could not be located. And again, they was very immaterial, pardon me. But it's always important to ensure that you get those receipts to ensure that those credit card charges are valid county expenditures. Okay, so that's just a comment, something that needs brought to you, the commissioner's attention. Other than that, that is basically the audit report. It was a good audit. Ms. Campbell's doing fine. She's going to be doing fine going forward, and looking forward to working with her in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Does the court have any questions on the report?
No.
Commissioner Wright?
No, sir.
No? Okay. Well, thank you. And I appreciate the management letter. Even the immaterials findings are useful in always improving our business. And I'd like to thank the treasurer for the work that went into what I know is her first year in maintaining a clean audit report. Thank you. And this will be posted to the public on the public information section of the county website. Yes, okay. So I'm sorry, the audience didn't have one to flip through. It's 80 pages about but it will be there. Okay, is there a motion to accept the audit report from Eckert and Company for the fiscal year ended September 30, 2020?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barr. You're welcome to stay with us, but we understand if you sign off.
All right, thank you. You have a good day.
Thank you. Okay. Let's get the outdoor burn ban out of the way. We have a ban on outdoor burning. It expires tomorrow. We had it with this expiration in anticipation of spring rains, which have so far disappointed us. Don't know about the commissioners. I talked to Fire Chief David Swartz of the Goldthwaite Department late last week, and he asked the court to consider leaving it in place based on the dryness and the lack of precipitation. There's no significant rain in the forecast this next week, and I'm proposing to renew it till April 15th, and which is approximately 30 days. and we will reconsider it in our mid-April Commissioners Court.
Make a motion, we leave the burn ban on until April the 15th.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of burn ban through to April 15th, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, done. Let's, based on the audience we have here, let's move on to discuss the number 8, which is discuss considering possible action on EMS dispatching. I've got a report on updates of things I've been working on. We will have a closed session later in the meeting with council, and we have 2 individuals that have signed up to speak. So at this point, Mr. Campbell, could you come up to the microphone?
Thank you, Your Honor and Commissioners, for allowing me to be here this morning and to speak before you as a member of the Star Volunteer Fire Department. We are
Mr. Campbell,
concerned
I'm
about-
sorry, we're having a hard time hearing you.
All right. How's this? Okay. By being a member of the real fire department, we rely on the sheriff's dispatching, not only for fire control, but also for emergency medical services, respondents to our community. And we are often one of the first people to get to a first responding situation. We are often the people who know where these people reside and are able to direct the ambulance to that person. Even deer stands. We have been asked to find someone who's called in from being hurt in a deer stand and having medical issues, that we, the fire department members, will go and do that. I don't know how to resolve the EMS and the sheriff's office dispatching, but I do know that it's vital to the rural communities, Pretty, Mullen, Star, and then west, south, that we have some way that is effective, that we go through the sheriff's department in order to reach the EMS. We use the sheriff's office dispatching to not only for the fires, but also to go through emergency medical emergencies. And that's something I would like for y'all to be considering as y'all make the decision as to how to resolve this dilemma with our dispatching. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Yeah, there are really two steps to dispatching. One is the 911 call that comes in to the dispatcher, and then the other is the radio signal that goes out to the responders. Mr. Owen, would you come up here for your what you've signed up to talk about?
Good morning. Thank you. Commissioners, for the opportunity to comment this morning.
It needs to be right in front of your mouth.
I'm also a member of the Star.
Feedback.
I'm also a member of the Star Volunteer Fire Department. The sheriff's office dispatch is very important to us because some of the tasks the sheriff asked us to do needs to come to us from the sheriff. So us being dispatched by some other organization operation would bring some difficulties into the way things work. I'm not totally enlightened as to all of the issues that are related to this EMS problem or EMS dispatch problem. But I encourage the court to work as diligently with whatever effort is necessary to get this problem solved and resolved and move forward. And certainly EMS dispatch is something that I do not see anyone being able to shut down the citizens of the county. So I encourage all that. As far as communication, if there's anything I can do to assist on a volunteer basis to the board or whoever, I certainly volunteer my time and effort as useful.
Thank you, Mr. Owen, and I definitely have and will need your technical assistance a lot. Okay, to bring the court up to date, things that have happened, we received a termination notice from Hamilton Healthcare, I believe last week. The court has had a copy of that.
Sorry, can you talk a little bit about it?
Sure. We received a termination notice from Hamilton Healthcare last week invoking both their 180-day termination right for no cause and their 90-day termination right for cause. And the cause portion of it is the contract with them requires Mills County to provide the dispatching. And we're, of course, on notice from the Sheriff's Department that they will no longer provide the dispatching past the date certain. So that's the grounds for the termination letter. I've talked to the hospital district. Their verbal guidance is they want to continue to provide service. This notice is something they're contractually required to do under the terms of our contract or interlocal agreement. And if we can resolve the problems, they are more than open to withdrawing the notice. But as it now stands, we have notice from the Sheriff's Department to CCMS dispatching, and we have notice from the hospital district of default and potential termination of service. We also received a copy of a letter from Texas Health and Human Services that was in response to a complaint filed by a part, I don't know what party it was, but it was filed in response to a EMS call back, I believe in November, that the sheriff referenced in his initial notice to the court of terminating dispatch. And the finding letter from the investigation by Health and Human Services is they have closed the complaint as unsubstantiated. So that's the professional disposition of the complaint. I had a phone call with the sheriff last week telling me that I could stop spinning my wheels on trying to line up an alternative dispatch arrangement, because as long as the calls were being ultimately routed to Hamilton Healthcare, he would not permit his dispatch operators to forward the calls, whether it went to Hamilton County, San Saba County, or wherever. And that being said, that he would be more than happy to continue to dispatch or forward calls as long as Hamilton Healthcare wasn't involved. So it actually leaves us with a conundrum. The courts approved a contract back in 2000 and actually first approved in 2014, last renewed in 2019, which has consistently provided that Mills County, through its sheriff's office, would do the dispatching. We've now been notified the sheriff will not. The ambulance service has pointed out formally that that's a default. And here we are. I have been working on the communications piece. Both Hamilton County Emergency Communication and San Saba County, through its sheriff's department, are willing to have the calls transferred to them, and they provide dispatching, provided we being Mills County, protect them from the incremental cost and provide the means for their dispatcher to reach by radio and pager to the EMS staff in Mills County. And I've talked to Mr. Owen. He has some ideas on a frequency that might be suitable to use that is currently used by the Gulf Lake Fire Department, although the degree of usage seems to be in question. And we've also received a proposal from Motorola that I earlier given Mr. Owen to look at, that's just north of $500,000 to establish a microwave relay from the Hamilton Emergency Communication Center to reach existing radio towers in Mills County. So the cost is bigger than a bread box. It's a little bit frustrating to not know how fruitful any of it might be, given if the sheriff takes the position that he will not permit the calls to be transferred to anybody that ultimately uses or dispatches our existing EMS is EMS service. And meanwhile, the clock is ticking now, both on the sheriff's notice, which best I can figure ends up around May 28th, and the 90-day notice from Hamilton from last week, which is looks like it'll be early June. So that's the report from my work on it.
So with Hamilton giving us that notice, do we need to start working on maybe looking at another ambulance service?
Well, we can definitely go out for bid on another ambulance service, but what we have here is an ambulance service that was selected by the court in 2014 and renewed in 2019, and is currently, that contract is in place, and we are having the decisions of one elected official attempting to force a change in that decision. So there's a bit of a precedent issue here too. I mean, it's like a fire department elects a fire chief that isn't approved by the sheriff, and this could happen again. So, I mean, obviously we need to look at all of our options, and that's one of them, but you need to consider, or the court should consider, what's forcing this issue. And it's not service. When we held a meeting, and Commissioner Parkin was there with me, with all the parties to say, okay, what's the problem? Is it helicopters? Is it radio? Is it staffing? Is it money? Is it radio courtesy? You know, what are the problems so we can deal with it? And the response was, it's him with the finger point, and it's one individual in the Hamilton County system. That the statement was, if they would fire him, we wouldn't have a problem with the dispatch. So it seems to me like an unsolvable problem on that front from negotiations. I mean, we've had people tell me, and some of our speakers just did, we would like for the court to do whatever it takes to preserve EMS service. Well, we're dealing with a non-negotiable position on one side. You know,
I realize that. I know that it takes time to post and do bids and all that. So we got to make sure that time schedule is also included in this.
so if we
You understand what I'm saying?
post for bids,
Yes, if we post for bids.
we
we're gonna
have
a
to
time schedule
say
there too.
terms, and it's going to be, are we going to post with Mills County providing dispatching, or with the responder providing their own dispatching? That if y'all can give me some help on that one, because it needs to be the same for everybody. Everybody bidding on the same proposal.
Judge, has the sheriff been invited to the court where he can make a presentation to the court where we can interact with him, been on the agenda?
Well, I mean, the sheriff's
Have
in,
you tried to do that, make that arrangement?
you know, we've had this on the agenda. The sheriff's gets a copy of the agenda in advance. He was here 2 weeks ago when we last met. Remember, we discussed, I forget what it was, the termination date and something
I think
else.
that was the only thing that was mentioned is
And-
termination.
But he had nothing else to add. We certainly could have discussed it. I did invite him to that meeting I mentioned. That wasn't the court, but it was the chairman of the hospital district. No, it wasn't. I think it was the vice chairman of the hospital board, the CEO of the hospital district, Commissioner Parkman, and myself, the head of the EMS service, the deputy EMS director, and the sheriff was there with the chief deputy. So that was all the players in the room to try and solve a problem. And the only identified problem was an individual.
I just wondered if maybe we could work it out, if we could get him on the agenda and where we could discuss it as a commissioner's court with the sheriff and see kind of how our options are to resolve this issue. I don't know whether it would work or not.
I mean, we can try that. The sheriff and I talked when I have this on the agenda today, and he said he had personal conflicts and couldn't make it, would try to watch it on YouTube or participate remotely. But I mean, I can't make him
I understand.
attend any more than I could make him dispatch.
I understand that. I just noticed that there's nothing been on our agenda that says the sheriff, Clint Hammonds, with EMS meeting with the court to discuss this issue. That's the only thing I'm trying to get to. Maybe we can resolve.
Well, if your point is it needs to be worded different on the agenda, I mean, I can I've had it on every agenda, I think, for the last several meetings. We'll keep doing that, and I will call him and give him a personal invitation, but that's all I can do. Does that answer your question?
Well, I know we've had it on the agenda, just like now, discuss considering possible action on EMS dispatch. To me, it still didn't get the sheriff involved with us. That's what I'm trying to do, figure out some way where we can all sit down and discuss this in front of the general public and also this court. I don't know how to do that.
I mean,
we mentioned or named the sheriff in this.
Okay, well, we can put anything we want on the agenda and I'll do that. But we need to discuss when you're dealing with a non-negotiable position. I believe you need to be discussing that and your options at the same time, because we can't control it. And this was meant to be a general discussion, which included the options we've talked about, plus the status quo. Other comments?
I've got quite a few, because I've sat in all of those meetings. One, when we left that one meeting, it was definitely between those two individuals. The head of the EMS and Sheriff Hammond. It really was nothing to do with the performance of Hamilton EMS. Other than one case, which they just said was not recognizable or whatever.
Yeah, dismissed as closed as unsubstantiated.
There's gonna be infractions in any medical field, one way or the other. There's probably people that perish every day from misuse of drugs or whatever. Stuff like that's gonna happen. That is the only case that we've actually had cited since, I guess, 2014. At that one meeting, it was proposed that Patrick Cobb could be replaced by Mr. Alexander to be over the Mills County part. That seemed like that was a good deal. Well, then later we get reference to, as long as Patrick Cobb's employed by EMS in Hamilton, the sheriff's department will not deal with it. We can't tell them to fire their head guy over EMS any more than we can do anything on this end of the deal. So I just don't think it has anything to do with the performance that Hamilton EMS has provided with us. It has to do with two individuals that don't like each other. And there's a point where you might need to just put your big boy britches on and get past that deal. Because we have to have EMS services. We do have an EMS dispatch center in the law enforcement center that needs to be utilized for the whole county. Whether it be fire, whether it be medical, whatever it needs to be used for. That's what it was set up for. And so that's what we need to work towards, not an individual liking or not liking somebody. And I'll leave it alone at that, because I've sat through all these things and I don't see that we have a huge problem.
Commissioner Williams, did you have a comment?
Well, I still come back to the original question I asked a while ago. We're gonna have to solve, because we can't make the sheriff's department do dispatch. We all know that, right? That's been by statute saying that we can't force him to do that. So maybe this is what we need to be looking at, is who's gonna dispatch. Even if Hamilton's not there, we've got to solve this dispatch problem.
Yes.
And so, I mean, we don't want it to come up 2 years later, like you did on your scenario, saying that, what if he doesn't like or the sheriff, he may not be the sheriff. Well, let's look way down the road, the future. We may not all be the commissioners up here, but we're gonna have to look at contracting this, is what it sounds like to me. Since we do not do our own EMS anymore. And so I think we've got to solve that problem.
Jason, are you aware, has there ever been a problem like this before, or even come close to it?
Never since not since I've been here.
Nor have I. And that's what I don't understand. I did attend the town hall meeting. And I wanted to hear the other side of the story. And the reason I attended it, and I think Summer, she was there at that meeting also, and Guy with the court, she was there also, but it's there's some issues here, and I don't really know what's going on with, except that one deal, terminate an individual. And
Commissioner Garrett's asking you to speak.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Guerin.
Yes, sir. I just want to say I agree with what Commissioner Parton said wholeheartedly. And for the life of me, I don't understand why an individual is holding the rest of Mills County hostage because he's upset about one individual that works for Hampton Hospital District that we have no control over individually. I just can't see where that's coming from. I'm very sorry, but I agree with what Commissioner Parton and Commissioner Williams said. We need to get to the bottom of this It's been on the agenda for almost 6 months now. And we need to do something and move on.
What I also heard too in the meeting is the liability from that's what I heard some of that mentioned coming from the sheriff of these dispatchers, the liability behind it, but I just, that was just some of the conversation that was said in the meeting. I don't know if he, the sheriff, that's the reason I asked about having the sheriff there in front of us on the agenda, where we could ask him point blank and discuss that. That's the reason I'm asking.
Well, he would be released from liability because he stated over and over that his name was not on the contract with Hamilton EMS. So there would be no liability from his standpoint.
I hope not.
Would be ours because we're contracted with them. And if we're contracted with them, until we can't be contracted with them for some reason or the other, which I do not see, they're our EMS service.
Yeah, I mean, there's liability in everything you do nowadays. I mean, walking up the stairs to the courtroom.
Well, that was one of the big reasons we got rid of
When we,
our own EMS.
That's right.
liability.
that was the justification for outsourcing. Since we're talking about liability, I'd like to see if the county attorney has any input on that or anything else to put you on the spot.
Of course, the county, it's no secret, the county has a contract with the EMS system for providing ambulance service. That contract is between the county and Hamilton EMS. The fact that the sheriff might or might not have signed the contract has absolutely nothing to do with that. The sheriff's department is an agency of the county, just like the other agencies of the county. And his refusal to dispatch with Hamilton EMS comes back on the county, because the county is the one that said that the county would provide EMS dispatch. Now, I made a comment a couple of months ago that I thought you had to take the sheriff at his word. And when he said he was going to quit answering or quit dispatching in 120 days, that you need to accept that and need to move on and come up with a different plan. My opinion on that hasn't changed, except we're 2 or 3 months on down the road now, and we still haven't done anything. I mean, this is not, we don't need to waste time arguing with the sheriff, in my opinion. The sheriff's office, because of whatever reasons, has become an unreliable source for providing 911 dispatch. That's the bottom line. And the county has a responsibility, if that's not going to work, to come up with another source. And I don't see that it makes any headway arguing with the sheriff's office department. That's just something that we have to do. And I agree there is a potential liability issue. Like the judge said, we got all kinds of potential liability issues floating around all over the place we may not even know about. But beyond that, the county has a responsibility for providing reliable 911 service. That's the county's responsibility. It's not the sheriff's responsibility. So I guess that would be my comment.
Well, to respond to some of that, I actually have two sources verbally committed or agreed to provide alternative dispatch as if we put together the technical side of it. But what the wrench that came in last week was if the sheriff, and he did, said he was not going to permit dispatchers to transfer the calls to anybody that would ultimately dispatch Hamilton County. So the initial position of I just want a one-button transfer and have somebody else deal with it was coming together and has now had been clipped, so to speak. So the only alternative is, basically we're forced to move away from Hamilton County because of this issue, or move dispatch completely, not dispatch, move 911 answering, the PSAP to a separate office.
I don't see them trying to work a deal with another ambulance service is the way to go, because, I mean, the sheriff may get mad at them too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm listening, they like to say that alternative is
Is,
really the only option, responsible option that we have.
okay. That's pretty clear. Is there any other discussion on this? We have, I have a scheduled closed session as soon as the only time I could get with council on this at 11:30. So we will have to, at some point, recess, have that meeting, reconvene, and take any action we choose to take. So at this point, is there any other?
Motion?
No, I do.
11:30 on this line item, or just skip it and go on?
Let's just leave it open because we're going to deal with it after executive session. But let's go through some of the other items on the agenda.
Okay.
We've done the audit report, outdoor burning. What about number 6, purchasing road and bridge equipment?
Okay, that's, there's a, in your packet today toward the back, there is 2 belly dumps that we have found. One of my road hands and I traveled to up around Abatement and looked at these last week. You can see the information there on them, price and their other. Just like everything right now, buying equipment is the wrong time of any in the last 10 years to be buying equipment. Prices have soared. Quality's not out there with what they're getting rid of. There were 6 of these on the lot, and 2 of them that I saw was worth it. You can see the difference in the one is a suspension, and the other one is a loaded belly dump. The first page, though, the big difference is on the price there is this one's a little longer, and it's the low profile belly dump. And so that means that a skid steer or a backhoe can load that without having the big equipment to load it. That isn't there. The other thing I want to mention is that we may want to look at going to auctions. There's a bunch of auctions around. There's Ritchie Brothers, Iron Planet, of course, Cowboy Love. Got some out here at Live Oak, and then there's a couple other auctions around the state if we wanted to try to find out. We really need the haul truck to go with this trailer. And then we need a haul trailer. They're all at auctions, but we don't have, we're gonna have to get together as commissioners and decide pretty quick and then how to go to it and get that money. I don't know, Judge, maybe you have a better idea of how we're gonna. At an auction, at least you can sign up and they will bill the county as of right now. You don't have to have the check on hand. But these belly dumps, out of the 5 that I went and saw last week, only 3 were left. So they sell within about a week's time.
Have you checked on those today?
No, I did not check on these today. They may not be available.
Or both of them 24 cubic yards?
Yes, sir.
I think
2016, if we could, both of them are 2016. They had a couple of 2019s, but they're way out of our price range. We can buy a new one. But if we buy a new one, we'll be ordering it and we're 6 months to a year out.
When are you gonna pull this? When,
Well, we got two haul trailers, trucks right now. We can go get it. Dale's is sitting there right now, ready for a trailer to be hooked on the back end of it.
well, nearly.
And it runs?
Good, yeah.
Okay.
got it running?
Yeah. No, not my old The one that me and
The one we just
Jason
bought.
purchased.
Yeah, the one we just bought.
We left it over at Syntex truck so that they could check everything out on it before we started using it. Everything's checked out. There was a sensor that, is oil pressure sensor. There wasn't anything wrong with the oil pressure, but they're, like everything else, they've had to order the sensor unit. And as of last week, they hadn't gotten it yet, but it's about ready to go. To take the place of if you do find a haul trailer. We have our own haul trailer. We probably wouldn't use a haul trailer. Y'all both need one. But we do need a belly dump, and with the way that our diesel prices have went this past week and a half, you better haul as much dirt in one load as you can haul. It'll make a huge difference in the year-end deal. I would make a motion. Jason looked at both these. I hadn't seen it. I would make a motion to approve out of the county road and bridge money that one of these, if they're still available, that one of the two, but there's $1,000 between them, that one of the two be purchased.
Yeah, it's basically one has a tarp on it. the other-
And we have, there's the budgeted equipment money in that cost center.
So there's 100,000 sitting
And mainly just so that we can get some more material hauled on these roads.
So that was a motion to purchase one of, or the other of these two. Well, I guess we ought to say not, price not to exceed, purchase a, whatever this is. 25.5. So we're motion to purchase a belly dump from Southwest Truck and Trailer at a price not to exceed $25,500 in Road and Bridge. So that's my motion, and since I said it.
I'll second.
And we have a second from Commissioner Parton. Is there further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No, okay. Well, any reason, anything we should talk about, Mike?
No, sir, I've already listed in the budget, and I'll probably vote against it on the road and bridge also.
Okay, so your objection is that we're basically that we budgeted doing this in Road and Bridge.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Also, it can fall in this, I think you put it down there, didn't you?
Well, and I talked about auctions and stuff, and so that's what I was wanting to know if y'all wanted to do, look at other equipment and auction and stuff like that to improve the county's infrastructure.
There is an auction sale this coming Saturday at Comanche that has a truck. I've talked to the commissioner in Comanche County. I've talked to Laura King. The truck will be selling with a salvage title. That does not mean that it cannot be registered and used. But Comanche County has improved their hauling stuff dramatically. And the guys got into it with a bucket truck right at the top of the door frame and knocked the front of the cab over about 1.5 inches. It could be pulled back across. The truck is usable. I talked to the commissioner that had the truck. He said it's a good old truck. I don't know if the odometer's right. It's showing 51,000 miles.
I don't think it's right.
And, but it's the TxDOT truck from Mills County that they've owned for 4 years. But it will sell with a salvage title. I have talked to the guy that does auction and told him what our situation was. He said if we wanted to bid on it, that he would let us bid on it and not pay for it until the 72 hours. I think it could also be another.
So is
Viable
this
haul
an
truck.
actual truck or is this a
It's a dump truck now, but I'd pull the bed off of it and put a fifth wheel on it.
and how does that system work to do that? I've never done that. I mean, it's
Just
just-
take the dump bed off of it and put it on. it. We've got the fifth
Penal
one.
hitch.
Well,
I mean, not the penal hitch, but the.
fifth wheel,
fifth wheel hitch on it.
just put it
Do
on
we have
there.
one?
No, we got the one off our truck that's not running. I mean, it'd definitely just be a county usable truck, but you don't know what these auctions, but I think that'll be possibly a $6,500, $8,500 truck. Rather than a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 truck. But it'd be something to use in the county only, really. I guess my deal's like, I just need some sort of guidance as to whether they can raise my hand at the auction sale.
Well, I think that there's two steps here. One is the logistics, which is working with our treasurer on how, if and how that could work. And the second one would be court approval to buy equipment at a price not to exceed. And that's my take on it. Ms. Campbell, do you have a view?
I mean, the money is there. I have kept it available. I think y'all were talking about it. So the money is available, but so you're saying you're going to,
How do you do about it? How would we go about it at an auction? To bid
so
on
you said it
something.
could be 72 hours to get it approved. It's not gonna let you PO it out in those 30 days.
I didn't ask him that. I just asked him, told him about 72 hours.
So we would have on Saturday. Auctions on Saturday.
Auctions is this Saturday.
Just realize that's 72 business hours for us, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
It'd be fine, but I guess unless we pre-approved the purchase amount,
I mean, that's what I would do if we were comfortable
Yeah,
with
that's what we have to
it.
do.
I personally think that it could very possibly be a good, cheap investment for the county.
I would get it approved. I think that's probably the easiest.
So with a pre-approval motion from the court, you could issue a check in 72 hours.
We approved it today and he told me.
Yeah.
Monday, and what it was this, I forgot to check on Monday, it's approved.
Okay. Well, that answers the logistical side of it.
What if the bid price goes high?
Yeah, that's what, that's where you better put a ceiling on it.
Just,
Yeah.
like anything, it's an auction, put your hand back down. Yeah, I mean, with it having a salvage tie, I think it'll scare a lot of people off. You know, the fact that if they don't know it, and I had to talk to Laurie because I wasn't sure county-wise that you could buy that thing and re-register it and put it back on the road. You can individual from insurance companies, but I didn't know about county.
Well,
She contacted Austin and they said yes.
here's the only concern I have is that his equipment is hard to find. And so stuff that we thought would go for, say, $5,000, you're not doing that. It's going for way over that.
And I mean, if it does, it does.
Ritchie Brothers is saying the same thing out there in Fort Worth. It's just the prices last week on those trucks that went through last week went 10,000 more than they usually do.
I mean, honestly, my thinking on that truck, I think it'll go from $6,500 to $8,500. I wouldn't give over $8,500 for it. If you get it for that or less, I think it'd be a good purchase. If you don't, somebody else just got them a truck.
Okay, you want to state a motion?
I'll make the motion. And are we talking about this money coming out of the road and bridge money?
My second question was, is this your plan to pull it out of road and bridge or your own budget?
I would say road and bridge.
This is all gonna be purchased under road and bridge. Will be
Yeah.
done the same way for trailer.
Yes.
So it would be available for use. Well, by appraisal, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so your motion is to purchase this salvage title truck
For
from,
no more than 8,500.
for no more than 8,500 at, what's the name of the auction?
Syntax auction.
Syntax auction and Comanche. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Parton, second from Commissioner Williams. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Nay. Same reason. Okay. Nay from Commissioner Wright. Okay, done. Number 7, consider an act on replacement of body cameras in the sheriff's office. This proposal here from Trinity. Is someone from the sheriff's office to speak to this?
Morning to the court. We've run into an issue, and it is an issue, just like you're talking about with equipment, that over time it wears out, it becomes obsolete. And also the warranty run out, and that's pretty much where we're with the system that we have, which is called WatchGuard. And it is very expensive on those units to have them replaced once the warranty's out. It's costing us about $1,000 to have those units repaired. We're looking at purchasing a new system that is much more cost effective. It's from a different company. They have software that doesn't cost near the amount that we've got invested into the WatchGuard system. And we're able to store that on site or actually off site through the cloud. So we would have the storage, unlimited storage available to us. We're also using those cameras in the jail right now. I believe we've got 2 of those in the jail, or those WatchGuard. But yes, we're looking at purchasing them not only for the deputies. Once these WatchGuard units wear out, then we're looking at purchasing them for the jail staff as well.
How many units or officers does this equip?
Well, for the jail, we'll have 2 units available for them. One will always be on a charging station, on the docking station. That way they'll always have a body camera and whatever chamber, because they work one on the floor, one in the control room. So whoever's on the floor will always have a body camera on them to wear when they're interacting with the inmates.
So this proposal is just for the jail. This doesn't include.
No, it also includes, I believe, 4 units.
Yeah, I'm thinking it says 7. Is that the way yours is?
Let's see.
I think it says
Well,
7.
yeah, it says body worn camera. That's where I was confused. 7.
But it only has 2 clips, 2 multi-docks. A 3-month plan, which is it says on the 3-month plan, it says quantity 168. I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah. And basically the 7 comes in, we have one officer that was hired, back when we hired the other 2 and sent them through the academy. There wasn't a body camera available for that officer. So one of these would be to outfit that officer with the body camera. The other ones would be for replacement of the ones that we've got out. We have 3 out right now that have to be replaced. And at a cost of over $1,000, because they're out of warranty with WatchGuard, we're looking at purchasing these ones, which is a lot more cost effective. And again, I believe the other 3 will be for the jail. Now, you'll have one on, whatever officers are on the floor, because now we do have 2 at times, because we've got a floating position available where they cover both sides of the shift. They come in, and that way whoever's on the floor will have a body camera on them at all times for their protection as well as the protection of the county inmates. docking stations allows you to charge them, but it also allows you to, once you dock those, it allows you to upload all the videos off of it once they're docked up to the station. So you'll need one for the jail, but we'll need one back on the enforcement side of it as well.
Yes, the question I have on that is, $50 times 168 for the 8,400, is that, insurance claim?
I don't know what the 168 is.
It says quantity 168 at $50 price, but it says monthly plan 3.
I don't see what you're.
It's item number 8.
Oh, okay.
Because that's half of the cost of all the claims.
Yeah, I don't know what the 168 is.
That's, again, instead of having like a computer tower with a storage, you're applying for a plan that allows an off-site storage location through the cloud. So that's the cost on, I guess, that plan.
That would be 56, if that's a 3-month plan. Yeah. Month plan, monthly plan, that's 168 months.
What happens to the old cameras? If we're replacing 7, maybe? Is that the way I read it?
Yes, sir. The old cameras, they become, like I said, they're watch guards, so we want to kind of move away from them. They only offer a limited warranty on them, as with anything.
Does that mean you'll use them until they break and then?
Until they break, because the cost effectiveness for us to purchase these other ones is basically like $400 versus replacing it for, $1,000 to $1,500 per unit. So over time, it save us money, and it's the same type of system that we have now.
And this is coming out of
First I've heard about,
equipment.
first I've heard about it,
Or
actually, they
special
work
use.
their own budget at the sheriff's department, you know where it's coming from, and you're not getting additional funding for this.
I don't have the logistics on
Right.
that. Couldn't speak as to where they're wanting to.
I haven't. this is
If
first
they're
I've
asking the
heard
court to pay for it, or if they're getting that forfeitures, that we do on seizures. I don't know.
I don't think there's enough money in forfeitures.
Well, we just table it until we find more information about it.
Yeah, I mean,
What is
we need to replace equipment and
17,000.
we need to have cameras that work.
$896.
I mean, if they can work their budget and find it out in one of their line items, that's their prerogative.
Well, they've got it in equipment. They got 69,000 in equipment, so that's what but a special use doesn't have enough, and the forfeitures have enough. So you'd have to take it out of 2 different accounts.
Sure.
That's what I did know. So, okay.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of the court?
I don't know anything about body cameras.
Well, yeah, and I don't know much about belly dumps, but we still have to make these decisions. So,
Well, if it's in his budget, I make a motion to approve the purchase of the body cameras for $17,896.
If it's,
Hang on just a minute. Are we going to need to do a line item transfer?
I don't, if it's in their budget.
So we have a category that can come out of now.
Under,
I didn't hear all that. Just want to make sure we're.
They do have an equipment line, but
I don't know why it's coming to us if it's equipment
Right.
and it's under their line item and it's under the 50,000.
That's what I'm asking. Are they asking for additional funding, which we can't really do unless it's an emergency?
well, yeah,
Yeah, you're either, that's my point. You're either gonna have, if it's not in a particular category now, then you're gonna have to do a line item transfer if it's not in the budget. We can't raise the budget.
Could we not table it until we get some more information?
I would draw my motion, we'll just table it. Find
Okay.
out.
And we don't,
Yeah.
one other thing, we don't have an agenda item for a line item transfer.
No.
No, yeah.
I don't
So
think
we
that's.
could do that today.
I don't think it, yeah, I'm like Summer. I don't think you'll need a line item, but I just don't know.
I don't know why.
I don't know why it's coming to us.
Let's do the tabling. Let's work with the treasurer to, let's show where the money's coming from. And if we need to have a special meeting, we can call one. And otherwise, it'll be on the next agenda with whatever steps are appropriate. If there's no budget for it, it's going to take a lot more discussion.
It's not like they don't have body cameras,
Right.
and they have them.
Yeah, this is preventative. Let me ask our county attorney a question. Are you seeing any problems with the video from the existing body cameras in your prosecution?
I haven't noticed any,
Okay,
but I'll be honest with you, I don't look at all
okay.
of them. I generally don't look at them unless I have to.
And it's not a issue with the quality of the video that we're
Okay.
getting from the units. It's just over time, the warranty wears out, those body cameras wear out, well, those parts and what they're charging us to fix them. We can buy brand new units that don't cost as much and it is more effective.
Yeah.
Also,
It sounds appropriate. Let's just get down to what the budget, the cost, make sure we got the money and a little more clarity on how many we're buying. Okay, thank you.
He motioned it. I'll second the motion.
Okay. Who made the motion?
My-
Okay, we have motion table commission.
Mike made a motion, withdrew the motion,
That's
and
correct.
then you made a motion to table it. And now he's second, is that correct?
I made the motion to table it.
We have a motion to table from Commissioner Wright, a second from Commissioner Williams. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's go through the monthly reports. Actually, let's start back with the minutes of our meeting of February 28th. As the court had the opportunity to review the minutes of February 28th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented to us as February 28th, 2022.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Wright, second Commissioner Williams. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we've got a report from the treasurer's office. There's a summary of all of our checking accounts, beginning balance for the month of February, ending balance, activity, and it's followed by a detail on our bonded indebtedness, showing the only indebtedness being 5.837 million and change on the jail bonds. And that compares to, I believe it was a 6 million type number that our auditor mentioned at 9:30. So this continues to ratchet down. Any questions for our treasurer on this report? Okay, this will be a consent agenda, so we'll just flip through them all unless there's something gets controversial. Monthly report from Appraisal District. This is collections for February. Key thing, bottom of the page, percent collected on the report. It's showing 95 point, I think that says 56%. And last year it was 66%. So we are way ahead of last year on the tax collections.
Judge, can I interrupt on this?
Yes.
Also, it was elected new officers at the Mills County Appraisal District. Michael Medina is the new president of the board, with Jason Garlick as vice president.
Okay. Interesting, thank you. We have two reports from our clerk. The first one is the county clerk's report. This is a schedule of the fees collected during the month. And the one behind it is the fees collected in her capacity as district clerk. So same collection point, two different hats. County fees are largely reporting, and the district fees are largely related to litigation. Next item is the report from our tax assessor collector. This is the motor vehicle registration report from state. Collected $92,539 in February, of which the county kept 27,124. There's a report from our Ag Extension Office. You can see over approximately 1,500 miles traveled in February. It's stock show season. You can see San Angelo, San Antonio shows being the big ones. And then what's coming up the next month on the next page, Houston and Austin. Then we have the report from the sheriff's office, 244 calls for service during the month, with 58 of those, or just over 20% of them, relating to EMS. And the balance, law enforcement. Fire was 19 calls, so just under 10% of the call volume. Significant thing here on that EMS call volume, last month, it was in the low 90s. Historically, it's averaged around 60. And there was question about whether the low 90s was a new trend or an anomaly. And from talking to EMS, it was largely COVID driven, that Omicron back in January. And this bears out we're back to our normal range of averaging around 60. And then you see the prisoner housing bill down at the bottom, 21,900 for the month. 13,008 of that was from Coryell County. And our next biggest guest was Hamilton County, 5,850. There's the usual 4-page report from the Justice of the Peace Office detailing new cases, dispositions, ending cases on the first page. The second page is a breakdown of civil cases between traffic and debt claims. There's the usual juvenile activity report, which is consistently 0, and then additional activity on the last page. At the top, you'll see number of magistrations performed and requests for counsel. And at the bottom of it, the fee schedule, which is $16,181 collected, with the county retaining $10,577. And then our big revenue producer, the judge's office, collecting septic fee income for the month of $1,860. And no, it's $930 for the month. That $1,860 is here today. And senior center rental of $50. You can see that senior center was used 14 times, but most of those were non-revenue use, and I imagine it was election related. Have our monthly EMS report showing calls and response time. The first page is within the city of Gulfway, where 91% of the calls are in the response time target. And then Mills County, non-Gulfway, and with 85% of the calls in the target, and an average response time of 12 minutes. Averages don't mean things. It's the outliers that get people's attention. You can see it looks like it was around April 10th to the 15th. There was at least one call that took 30 minutes. The comment on the cover sheet was they continue to have delays in the far western part of the county, meeting the 20-minute standard. And when they're responding and on a second simultaneous call, and the ambulance is coming from one of the county lines. And then we have the report from our Veteran Service Officer in his usual detail. And on the second page of it, you can see the hours worked on the left-hand column, and the right-hand column, the number of veterans served, and that was 17 for the month. So that's the consent agenda, and I'd entertain a motion to accept it.
Sir, did we go over accounts payable?
No, we have not. Was that on there? Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Okay, let's shift gears to accounts payable. This was distributed electronically from the treasurer's office Friday.
I have a question on page 1 under card services and county treasurer for bills for conference. That should actually go into my expense report. Which is on page 2. I did not use county credit card. Should be average of the mileage on page 2.
Well, so I'm confused. So there was no credit payment to the card center for that amount?
No, we will not make that payment yet. This is just for approvals, and she thought I would use the county credit card when I get my receipts.
Okay.
It should go to county treasurer expense on page
Okay.
is what she said. It shouldn't be under county service.
Also on page 2, Judge, under county judge's expense, that's.
I was going to ask you about that.
That should be, I'll just go to mine.
Well, it's either miscoded on precinct 1 or it should go to yours.
Yeah, I think it's a light bug, but we don't know what it was.
Okay. It's de minimis. I'll pay for your light bulb.
Heat bug, sure.
That's about your fuel.
And on page 2, it says on the Middle County General Store, judge's expense, there's precinct 1, shop, $6.99.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I'll let you pay for it, Judge.
I have a comment on ours, it's right, but last Monday morning, I started trying to get diesel at $3.74 a gallon. And I got it Tuesday afternoon at $4.29 a gallon, 54 cents in the 24-hour period. And that was, we needed some diesel. Didn't want to pay that, but nobody that I talked to wouldn't lock in the price because they didn't know what their next load was going to be. So in the long run, I think we're fine, but we're sitting out there with some expensive diesel.
Well, between the run-up in fuel cost and probably election cost and the cost associated with all the trial activity, let's look at the March budget actual report when you produce it in April. And I'll circulate it to the court. We may have some problems in those areas just based on things that are going on. And it would be timely to look at budget transfer.
Treasurer's report, the budget analysis. I send it out with my treasurer's.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got it right here.
Okay.
The fuel's going to be a problem for
Right.
the year, especially the sheriff's department too.
Now that report we just received is for February. March will show more, and March is halfway through our fiscal year. So I think that's a good point to index off. We'll just have an agenda item and go through it where we stand on these major items in our budget. And we may be ripe at that time to talk about the cost of the alternative dispatch. Let's go back to payables though. I had a question on precinct 4. Jason, this is page 6, early glass a track ladder that wouldn't be a track loader.
Track loader.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw them spelling.
Okay, so that's putting glass in the track loader. Okay.
It does not have a glass on it, when it's a plexiglass that we're putting on
Okay.
it to keep the dust out of our face a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah, it was.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda. And with its corrections, I guess I should say.
Okay, so a motion to approve the consent agenda with the noted corrections to the accounts payable by Commissioner Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. So that covers the consent agenda. Audit outdoor burn ban, various purchasing, EMS. Okay. Commissioners' request and reports.
Precinct 1 been busy cutting brush on County Road 3.7, 318. That's what we've been doing.
Okay, Commissioner Guerin, anything you'd like to say on precinct 2 reports?
The rock crusher still down again. I don't know. We've had it since right that first year. We've yet to mill over 10 steps. So maybe they'll get glued back together one of these days. I'm really questioning whether we need to look at something else as far as the power for that thing instead of that Challenger tractor.
Commissioner Parkin.
We've been blading some roads, they're dry, trying to get some ruts out from the ice storms. Been shredding a little bit. We're working on the truck. So just trying to get some moisture so we can actually get something accomplished.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes, we've been digging out old material from up at Ingram cement plant and digging out a pit up there, but also at the same time hauling to, we've been going to County Roads 420 and 408 out toward the Big Valley area. And we're redoing some roads out there with that material. We worked on a couple of vehicles and doing some maintenance. I was just curious about the rock crusher, it's gonna be a question. And then, so Guy has approached me, gentlemen, and we have 2 dead trees on the courthouse lawn, one being the pine tree and one being the mesquite tree. Prom is the first weekend in April, I think is what it is, and he would like to get those trees removed. He does have trustee help tomorrow through Thursday. Is there any way that any of y'all could come over and maybe help? Let's cut these trees down and haul them off right quick. If y'all do, or y'all would be willing to help with that, holler at me and let's get that together. I don't think it'll take too long. The biggest problem is that pine tree, because it's right next to the sidewalk. And so we have rented a stump grinder, we'll cut it off and then grind the stump down. So if y'all would please let me know if y'all can help.
We need equipment and manpower, or just manpower?
Yeah, I mean, we really need a backhoe, and then we'll have a dump truck, and then we'll just haul it out and dump it on in our pile. I've got a big pile of brush where we dumped the last stuff from the courthouse. It's on behind the sides. It's out there on County Road 406, so it's not that far. But we do have a pile of brush that needs to be burned one of these days. So,
Okay.
but anyway, if anyone would like to help with that, I'd appreciate it. And that's all I have.
Thank you. The judge's report, there are 2 things going on. One from my training last week. There's another, let's call it unfunded mandate, has to do with bail. There's new changes in the criminal code affecting Setting of bail, it requires some extra consideration, but mostly it requires extra reporting. Everybody that magistrates, and that's basically the JP and myself, have to get 8 hours of training done by December 1st on the new law. The bail terms and conditions, we have to pull and read criminal history reports. The jail historically does that for us, is to pull it. It's our job to read it. But then the terms of the bail now have to be input back into the criminal reporting system within 24 hours. So there's going to be some extra work there. There's also a requirement in the clerk's office that there's a fee, and I don't remember the name of it, but it did catch my eye that it was $21, that fee has to be refunded and cannot be charged against bonds if the person is not convicted. So people that pay that fee or have a cash bond and get not prosecuted, found not guilty, or otherwise don't get a conviction on record, the fee has to be refunded. So that'll be extra calculations in our clerk's office. It probably won't cost a lot of money at $21 each, but all of this is extra work and extra training. The other thing, a Pretty Wind project issued a certificate of commencement of commercial operations in February. This triggers some things under the abatement agreement, and when they start going on the tax rolls, as everybody knows, are set January 1st. So under the abatement agreement, the abatement would start the January 1st following the year of completion. So that would be January of 23. But it means the towers that were largely completed on January 1 of 22 will be on the tax rolls at full value. Pretty Wind is looking for ways to try and backdate or elect an earlier start on the abatement, and the agreement provided for that, but it provided for a notice period which they may not be able to meet. So one way or the other, there's tax revenue there, either in terms of the pilot payment or an unabated tax payment. And I'm working with our law firm in Sweetwater and keeping the appraisal district in the loop. But that's in play. That's all I have. At this point, I'd move that we recess the court until 11:30, when we reconvene in executive session to consult with counsel regarding EMS dispatching. And this would be pursuant to Texas Government Code 651.071. And we will do that in the grand jury room with counsel attending via teleconference. And following that, we will reconvene in regular session to take action if appropriate, and then adjourn formally in public session from that point. So that's my motion. Is there a second?
I have a question. When
Yes.
you reconvene, are you going to say you're going to reconvene at a specific time, or just when you finish in there? I had some members of the audience that wanted to hear what your next action was going to be.
We will, I can't promise a specific time, so it will just be reconvened when concluded. My best guess is it's going to take 30 minutes, but that's a guess. We will have something posted on YouTube saying that we are in recess or we are in executive session. So when those come down, we will be back online. Anyway, we have a motion to recess until 11:30 and reconvene in closed session pursuant to 651.071 for consultation with counsel. Is there a second?
Second.
There a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Court is in recess.
I'm gonna unmute the mics.
Okay.
We'll have to tie off to the bucket to be able to put the test on. I'm building more than one hat. I'm sure that's true. I'm sure.
Can you hear us, Jackie?
She might have.
Yes, sir,
gone
I
to the
can.
sign.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes, we can hear you.
Have you reconvened yet?
No,
Thank you.
we're good. We just come in
Okay.
here.
Mills County Commissioners Court is reconvening in public session following a closed session that was held pursuant to Texas Government Code 651-071. We are present in the courtroom with Commissioners Wright, Williams, and Parton, and myself as county judge, as well as the county clerk and the county attorney. I move that the county judge be authorized to respond to the termination notice from Hamilton Healthcare, our local EMS provider.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We're continuing with the discussion and consideration and action on EMS dispatching. Does the court want to make a specific authorization to tell me to proceed to arrange either or both of an emergency communication department or a regional, or participation in a regional communications department?
It's my opinion that we need to look at going forward as a different communications for dispatch,
Okay, separate from the sheriff's department.
separate from the sheriff's department.
So I don't know, I mean, other than me doing legwork and analysis and coming back to the court with a recommendation, I don't know that there's action.
The big thing is, as we've discussed before and after and different times, we've got the clock ticking and we need to get moving.
Right. So to find out, but rather than just move a piece of the dispatching, to move the entire dispatch operation. And that would include budget analysis of the cost, analysis of the possibility of funding it through line item transfers, or the possibility of emergency budget amendments. But without being able to quantify any of that, there's no action to be taken. Mr. Hale, do you have any advice at this point?
I guess I might prefer there maybe is a motion and to authorize the judge to do some research in the various possible avenues that we could go in concerning the independent 911 answering service, and report back with the idea that that is where we're headed. And then we were going to attempt to maintain our service with Hamilton EMS, and then authorize the judge to make those inquiries and come back to the court.
That's kind of a random.
Yeah, well, how does the court feel about that? I'll take a stab at crafting the motion if that's the consensus of what we want to
Better than
do.
what I said.
Yeah. Okay, well,
See if he doesn't ramble. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I move that the judge be directed to prepare a estimated cost of creating an independent emergency communications department for Mills County, and as an alternative, participating in a regional emergency communication department, with the report to be presented to the Commissioner's Court for consideration and action in the future, in the immediate future.
I second.
Okay, motion and second. Don't ask me to restate it. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Is there any other anything else to discuss regarding EMS dispatching? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?